Welcome to the Lean Loop. If you're interested in lean leadership, then you can be a part of the Lean Loop, where we explore tenets and ideas and practices regarding great lean leadership. Today, we're going to be looking at the dilemma that we're in as lean leaders, and that is whether or not we want to hang on the edge of failure or pioneer into the frontier of the future. So we're going to look at lean leadership, innovation, and efficiency in the digital age. I'm Dr. Shannon Flummerfelt, your podcast host. So when we are looking at the information in front of us in terms of what's possible and the complexity of all of it, it can be overwhelming. But today we are exploring a frontier that is intimidating, and that is the intersection of lean leadership and Industry 4.0. So we often think of lean as a physically based discipline where we walk the factory floor, we see the waste, we are observing process steps and measuring value streams. But in the digital age, our Gemba, or the place where the real work happens, where we're trying to figure out what is actually going on in terms of value added and waste operations, our Gemba has changed. It's actually also in cyberspace. So we're here to briefly look at how AI is not a replacement for human leadership and great lean leaders, but rather it becomes the ultimate tool for leaders and should be used with the ability to demonstrate respect for people at the highest levels. So we can say now that we know that AI is far enough advanced that it can handle the data complexity that it is in front of us and exists in our organizations in all areas. And that means that as human leaders, we can now begin to prioritize value added empathy and strategic coaching and talent management and some of the pieces that often get lost in the fray of operating an organization on a daily basis. So what we're talking about here when we're combining Lean and Industry 4.0, it's not just AI, but it's the entire package of what comes with Industry 4.0. But AI is very predominant now, along with robotics and also digital twins. And also a part of this whole package are concerns about cybersecurity. So when we talk about Lean 4.0, that simply means we're just trying to understand where Lean and Industry 4.0, where you can find that sweet spot as a great lean leader in this age of quick movement that we're in right now. So there's a synergy that's possible. It comes from the efficiency that we can develop by using Industry 4.0 to create those efficiencies we need and intelligence, which then frees up the social capital side of our organization to learn more from what's happening through AI and also from all the efficiency and quality gains that are possible. So all this is very new and we're just learning how to use it. But if you take, for instance, predictive AI, this is a really interesting development for us as leaders because anytime we're trying to predict or make a forecast, we're typically using lagging indicators. That is, what are the historical trends? What do the control process readouts look like? What do we know from what's happened in the past? What does that look like? Or even what's happening in the current state, where we're trying to see where we can make things better. But it's all actually still very reactive. It's reactive root cause analysis. And so with predictive AI, we can actually move to leading indicators. And that's because the pattern recognition, the artificial intelligence and the artificial superintelligence and general intelligence, whatever level we're at, it's very easy for it to pick out patterns and turn that into a proactive prediction. And so now we can begin to understand what will happen. So we move from reactive, past and current state root cause analysis to using predictive AI so we can understand the proactive patterns and get into dynamic forecasting. What this does is this allows us to leverage every resource and every asset that we have in our organizations in a much more intelligent way. So we gain the efficiency and intelligence that we find in Lean 4.0. Digital twins are another great example because now what we can do is take anything that allows us, and previously it was just mostly in the physical realm, but now digital twins can go to a certain extent beyond the physical realm, but you can take anything and simulate it. And in that simulation, what you're trying to do is test it in any way possible, but your tests are not limited to a like for aviation. You know, if you're trying to test the wing of an aircraft, you're not limited to flight testing in, for Flutter. You're not limited to that physical testing facility. You can actually test this digitally, but with the kinds of conditions that, any possible thing, which includes black swan events, something that maybe we would never even plan for or consider, but it's possible that we could see what happens in this case. Not saying that there's necessarily the right business case for that, but we can simulate and therefore test, validate, and verify anything, anything in air quotes, but quite a few things here that we need. And so what this does is this allows us to make decisions to pivot, just as predictive AI would be. We're getting all of this information ahead of time. So therefore, our planning for what we're going to implement, we can really do that deep dive and get rid of waste. So whether you're trying to figure out a market strategy and what the market holds predictively, or how your product or service would text in a marketplace, in a simulated marketplace with a digital twin, or whether you're trying to, if you're a school, if you're trying to run a new school schedule and you want to see how many things can go wrong, how many conflicts do you have, how many problems do you have with scheduling rooms and scheduling teachers and conflicts with different AP courses and so on. You can run all of that in a digital twin. And therefore, the standard work is being simulated a million different ways, or however many different ways you want it to be. And therefore, when you get ready to implement it, your standard work is very, very close to zero defect. So you're working more easily at Six Sigma levels in terms of product and service quality and other issues within your organization. And the last one I wanted to mention is safety and cybersecurity. And so, we have an obligation as an organization that we protect our workers. I mean, we have all kinds of confidential employee information, sometimes client information, client IP, whatever it might be, home addresses, social security numbers, insurance information. I mean, you name it, we've got all of that. So we want to be able to look at Lean 4.0 from the idea of creating the highest levels of safety in our data and data management with the way that our cybersecurity works. So, at one point, we were talking about, in several years ago in the banking industry, moving to blockchain because of the security issues with blockchain, because it's decentralized. Well, if you were to talk to a school system, for instance, about moving to a blockchain data management, that would have not even been considered. And so now we have this ability to really do so much more. So it's very exciting what's possible. So if we move into the application of lean leadership and Industry 4.0 in education, this is something that I call Education 4.0. So we have this combination of what we know as world-class leadership practice with all of the benefits that we gain from Industry 4.0 applied to education. There are so many use cases that are possible. Sometimes it's easier to see the digital Gemba in the business workplace than it is in the leadership educational workspace. But in business, we would say that it's easy for us to look at predictive return on investment. We can forecast all kinds of things as we see from predictive AI, find the bottlenecks and so on. And we're getting after this invisible waste, which is, our Gemba is in cyberspace, as we talked about before, all happening on digital workflows that you would never catch. Well, education has a similar application. And we look at in Education 4.0, our academic ROI, return on investment, becomes even more prominently possible because we have so many ways to get at the efficiency and intelligence development that happens with Industry 4.0 in education and also using the tools that are in thinking routines of great lean leadership. So, for instance, for instructional leadership, we can use real-time AI-driven performance data to guide anything in the school. It could be a teacher coaching, it could be the quality of the curriculum for student outcomes. It could be the actual examination of the student learning experience for better learning outcomes. It can even be where we place furniture in a classroom for the best student outcomes. We can actually measure that and get real-time feedback to understand how our instructional leadership needs to be adjusted, improved in real time. So this changes the whole mindset that we have around, for instance, data walks or teaching observations or even peer review in teaching, right? Where, you'll come in and observe, then you'll leave the classroom, then you have to write it up, and then you have to meet with the teacher and go over what you found, try to help them and coach them and so on with any ideas for improvement and so on. All of this can be done in real time. So the teacher has it, the instructional leader has it. To a certain extent, of course, students and parents will have around their outcomes that kind of information. So this changes everything because instead of school improvement processes taking a year, 2 years, 3 years, we can be working in real time on what the data show us is happening. So this is incredibly energizing and exciting for instructional leadership and for faculty and the instructional leadership that they show in the classroom as well. Another area would be time reclamation. So all of the drudge work, anything that is automated, repetitive, scheduling, reporting, grading, all of those kinds of things can be done through Lean 4.0 or Education 4.0. So this is a huge time saver. So imagine freeing up instructional leaders, classroom teachers, instructional coaches, special education teachers from the drudgery of the paperwork mountains and mountains that they have to fill out and complete. And now this can be done in an automated way. And of course, you always have what we call human in the loop looking over all this stuff. We'll talk about that in a moment. So you don't just hand it all over, but this is your assistant, very efficient assistant taking care of this for you. And then, of course, compliance and compliance work and compliance mastery is a huge challenge in schools. We have all kinds of compliance regulations. Education is a very highly compliance-driven area of service delivery. We have standards. They may be professional standards. They may be certification standards. They may be state standards. There may be other types of requirements, safety requirements or legal requirements, very, very highly compliance-driven environment. So if you could get the compliance piece of it figured out by the use of AI specifically, but also other tools of Industry 4.0 through intelligent tagging and automated auditing processes, again, always with human in the loop, then that can be a huge time saving. So what we're talking about here with digital Gemba and education is the idea that we're getting rid of the non-value added tasks that could be done through AI. And when we can hand those over, and we hand them over intelligently and wisely with testing and always with human in the loop, so then we're in good shape. Now you have this whole value added bandwidth that you've created in your schools, which could be huge for us if we know how to manage and lead. And so we want to make sure that we do, when we are working on these things, that we do include an ethical framework for the work that's done with Industry 4.0 AI in Education 4.0. So we require a human in the loop, and this is where the recommendations come from AI, but the educational leader, faculty, whoever the decision maker is, provides the empathy, right? They provide the oversight. And then we move from this idea of it's hard to share all the data to it's very easy to share the data. So we have not only this idea of governance becoming very different, but we have the idea of transparency and that the auditing that we do can be a lot easier. So we can audit for bias, for instance, in our instructional practices or in our communication that we have, whatever it may be. So all these things that can be a part of helping us to be more effective are very possible. So what would we do? Well, let's just make it simple. If you step into Education 4.0, the first thing that you could do, and take 10 days to do this, is just go through and start making a list and auditing. Where am I wasting cognitive energy, and where does my data suffer from reliability, fidelity, integrity, right? And where do I have problems with understanding what's going on? There could easily be a list in the first 10 days of several things that, here's where I'm wasting my time and energy on a repetitive, clerical type task, and certainly below my pay grade, the level of work. So why not look at this and see if we can move it to an AI application? Then the next 10 days, simply go through that list and pick out a few high impact tasks that you want to do. You can put this list, you can select this list by creating a force field analysis where you look at something that would be low effort, high impact, or low risk, high impact, and find a couple of the things off of your first 10-day list that you'd say, you know what, I want to pilot this, let me try this. So with plan, you're seeing where those gaps are. With do, you're trying to set up a pilot. This is not going to be standardized yet, but you're trying to see, let me pilot a couple small things on a small scale and see what I can do. And then the next 5 days, what you would do is just do a very small pilot and have this be with strict what's called human in the loop oversight. And again, this is a part of the ethical constitution that we must have if we're using AI in Education 4.0, is making sure that we see what's going on. So again, a very small scale, couple of pilots, maybe three, and you do this very quick pilot. This is in Lean called a kaikaku. It's a rapid development, rapid deployment, improvement project. And you launch it, but have the strict human in the loop oversight, right? So you want to make sure, that it's not going to cause havoc in any way and that you're auditing it very carefully. And then the last 4 days, you would find something that seems like it's got promise. And you'd say, okay, are we ready to scale this to a maybe higher level pilot, right? So we move from, alpha testing to beta testing, before we put it out there. And so we're scaling it up and maybe expanding the pilot. And again, what did we learn from this pilot? We're carrying that all forward into Adjust. Lessons learned. Now, what do we want to try to move towards standardization on? And so again, you can do another round of PDCA with these pilots and see how they're scaling up. Again, there's some more steps to actually standardizing, but we won't get into that here. But I hope that this short introduction here to what's called Education 4.0 is helpful. Again, we cannot delegate Education 4.0 to Industry 4.0 tools. We have to own it. Okay, we have to lead it. We have to own it. So we use the technology to eliminate the drudgery, but we don't give away the heart of our schools, right? So if you have any questions, you want to have any other conversation, please feel free to reach out to me, Dr. Shannon Flummerfelt, Charactership Lean Consulting at gmail.com. Again, all one word, Charactership Lean Consulting at gmail.com. Thanks for listening.